Welcome, dear friends. We're going to talk about why crystals shatter, crack, break. It's a really fascinating subject, and I think over the decade and a half that I worked full-time as a healer with crystals, I saw some amazing things happen, not only to my clients, but actually on me as well. It's incredible. We're going to dispel some of the myths, some of the fears which normally are our first mindset programming. First of all, if you go to my website, on my website there is a link on the homepage, and it's great to listen to the story of Sleeping Beauty, which is a type of turquoise. And the story is very specific to one lady who went through her challenge of wearing a crystal white shattered and what the outcome was. But I'm also now going to share all the understanding of these years of what happens in the moment to crack, shatter, break. Okay, so it's going to be like a little workshop, but let's talk about it, and let's underneath here, when we've finished, let's talk about it and let's see if anybody else has experienced it and what are the things we can do thereafter, which is obviously the important thing. One thing knowing why, but what do we do thereafter? That's really important. So let's start at the very beginning. What is a crystal? A crystal is neither water or stone. It vibrates in between. It has a unique frequency that most often than not sends out a blast of energy that changes frequencies within the body or within the energy around the room or wherever you are. This frequency is very individual to each crystal. So depending on where the crystal came from is normally what that frequency is. So my understanding over the years is that the world that we live in, as a whatever you want to call it, flat globe, doesn't matter, but the world that we live in, Earth creates minerals, it creates crystals, and there is a reason why it creates crystals, and my belief is that it's kind of an immune system booster. So the Earth has an immune system, and that immune system is crystals. It creates this immune system, which is basically a frequency to bring balance to the Earth and the atmosphere. It's a unique frequency, and sometimes when we take that frequency, let's say for instance, I always like to use certain crystals to say, one I believe is the frequency of India, and in Pune there is a crystal called Cavansite. That crystal vibrates at a very healing and forgiveness. So the area around there for miles and miles and miles, that energy creates a very forgiving frequency. And you normally find, depending on where the crystals are, whether it's Brazil, America, there's a reason why crystals do what they do. So for instance, New York has Herkimer diamond. It has a frequency that absolutely brings a great power to that area, an enlightenment. And it's incredible that you go to certain places like Czech Republic and you see the Moldavite there. Moldavite has a frequency to absolutely help people become awake and aware. And it's incredible that all over the world these frequencies are there for a reason. We haven't even tapped into 1% of that yet, but we do know that they hold memory. So if a crystal can hold memory, then that means it can hold, and this is on a positive side of things, and a lot of people argue with me here saying, but you said this, Mark, you said that. Right, not everything that I say is absolute. I just see things for what they are and what happens, and what I try and do is try and make you understand there is nothing to fear with crystals, only everything to appreciate, admire, and be astounded by. So there are times, and it's very rare, but there are times that a crystal serves its purpose and then shatters. And the reason why it shatters is because you, which you'll never be told this, but you have a frequency, an energy, a life force which is so powerful that not even science can grasp. And it has been said many times before that the energy that we produce can light 2 or 3 streets full of electric. We are that powerful. You won't be told this. They don't want you to know this, but it's true. Our frequency is so powerful that at times we sometimes see it. So many people will talk about walking under a lamppost and a light coming on. Many people will talk about furniture moving in the house. And sometimes that is our own energy being extremely powerful. So our energy, if we start to delve into the understanding of the power of our life force, chi, prana, that we can admit an energy that can touch somebody else 1,000 miles away, and they can ring us up and say, I was just thinking about you. I was just thinking about you. That is an energy that can connect. So if you think about that for a moment and then put yourself in one position, that is that you're sat there and you now pick the phone up and you're wearing a crystal, say chungite or rose quartz, or like I would be wearing something like moldavite, and you have a phone call with somebody and all of a sudden that person starts telling you something really profound, really painful. Somebody's passed away, somebody's in pain, and you can feel their pain. What happens is that you take that energy and you pull that energy in because you want to feel their energy. They're sending you that energy because they want you to understand what they're saying. And there are particular times, very rare, but there are times that that energy comes in to the crystal and the crystal will shatter because of the power of the thought and what has been said. Now, it's not just that power, but when you are listening to something, you create an energy too, an energy that wants to make a difference. But sometimes you can create an energy that is so powerful that you don't know what to do with it. We sometimes call it confusion. And we're wondering what to do. And that power can actually be transmitted, and the crystal can feel and hold in a sense that it's trying to not absorb, but trying to understand. And at the point where that pain and that suffering and that energy hits the crystal can sometimes smash. Okay, that's one scenario. I've seen it happen loads of times. The other scenario is when somebody is basically wearing a crystal and the body energy is so powerful that it's trying to heal a certain part of the body. So you may have what's called some kind of issue in the physical body, that your body and your energy is trying to manifest healing. At the same time as that manifest of healing, there is created an extremely powerful energy. And if your crystal is on your body, sometimes the crystal will, as a memory, absorb that, because it's not negative, okay? It's just an energy, and it pours in and can shatter that crystal. So there was many occasions that a crystal would shatter or break or crack when a client was going through a healing process in the body. Thus, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, I would ask the client, have you felt anything strange in your body, anything happening? And they would say, yeah, this is happening in my body, and it started a few weeks ago or a month ago. And then I would say, well, that's interesting, because it could be that something is taking place in your body. It could be a sign that your body is telling you that there's healing taking place. After that point, you make the decision whether you want to go down a natural path or whether you want to go to a hospital. But it is an indicator sometimes that we should check our body and start to look after our body and maintain it at its highest level of healing with fruit and vegetables and clearing toxins and beers and man-made drugs out of our system. So that's another thing. There were times that I would be sat giving a session, whether that was on the internet via Skype or a platform, with a client, and as I'm connecting to that client, there's been many a times that my crystal had cracked. And the reason why is I was feeling that person's energy at that time. So as a healer, we feel their energy, and as we feel it, it goes into our body and can crack the crystal. What that feeling is could be that person going through a traumatic stress, pain, suffering. So as a healer, we try, without realizing, we are the radiator, and they are the drain, and we are pulling that energy in, and the crystal is there to do its job. On a real positive note, every time a crystal breaks, it's because it is helping us. It isn't, oh my God, what's wrong with me? It's not what's wrong with you. It's actually, thank you very much for what the crystal's just done. Because of all the years that I've watched crystals break within me, I've realized, oh man, maybe there's something here. And I actually at one point believed that I could feel something here that could have been a manifest of what could only be known as an illness, an issue inside. So what I did was, when that happened and my crystal cracked in 3, I started meditating and self-healing and started feeding my body. I actually realized at that point I wasn't feeding my body, and I was working too hard, and I was very stressed with all what was going on. Within a few months, that feeling, that issue, that pain had disappeared. So I thanked my crystal. When a crystal cracks, it is because of positivity, understanding, healing, awakening, very, very high vibration. What happens to the crystal? The crystal doesn't damage. You might think, oh, it's broken, but it hasn't broken. It's just served its purpose. Now you have 2 or 3 or 4 crystals. So I mount them crystals knowing that this crystal is really powerful. Or what I do is I plant the crystal, one by the sea, one in the mountains, and one near like a lake. Sometimes I'll put one on a mountain, sometimes I'll put one near the sea, and sometimes I'll keep the other one. So I connect to all 3 pieces. That's a really wonderful thing to do. Sometimes I'll take them 3 pieces and keep one for myself and close my eyes and say, who needs this beautiful, powerful crystal? And then all of a sudden I'll think of one person or another. I'll put one of the crystals on a pendant, keep the other 2 until I meet somebody that I feel needs it. So in the moment, I'll just say, okay, I'd like to give you this crystal. Wow, what is it? It's a really powerful crystal. It has amazing work, and there's no reason why that crystal now can't do exactly the same thing, only it's just that slightly smaller. And the same thing could happen for somebody else, which has on many occasions. I think what we need to start to address is the fact that we spend more time in fear because of the programming of our school and what ifs and the unknown. We are programmed to believe that when something happens like that, it's a negative. And actually, it isn't a negative, it's a positive, it's a healing process. It's a bit like illness. When science started looking at illness, they looked at a body part that was dying inside and saw bacteria under a microscope around it. And science, being science, made a mistake and believed that, oh, it's the bacteria that's killed that dying part. When in fact, bacteria was actually trying to heal it. And I heard the reference on a great show I'm going to put underneath here. You must watch it. And that is Dominic, a friend of mine who I did an interview. He brought two people on who I resonated very much with, and I'm in line with their way of belief system in illness. And basically, bacteria was there to try and put the fire out, just like you would see a house on fire and all these men around the house. Most people would think, oh, it's them men who caused the fire, when actually the firemen, and they're trying to put the fire out. Well, that's what bacteria does. But that's another story. But I'll put the link underneath and watch it. It might just make you understand what health, healing, and how we've been lied to by science completely and utterly. And you realize what health is and what well-being is and what illness is and what virus is. And you'll realize it's all a lie and a manipulation. So I'll leave that link underneath here. But let's just finish off on this note. There is nothing negative or wrong or bad when this happens. It's positive. And there's always an amazing outcome at the end of it. I have never seen a negative outcome when a crystal is cracked. Only positivity. So in truth, the crystal did its job. And the outcome is always positive, which is brilliant. So thank you so much, crystals, for being the amazing catalyst, for being the amazing telegram, for being the amazing healer that we need sometimes in our life. So I'll leave you on one note. There is one crystal in this world that people will argue and say it's not a crystal. That's fine. It's a meteorite. But it's the only crystal that I ever saw that absorbed negative energy and dispelled it in a very easy manner. Every other crystal, I don't see that. I see their energy blast, and clear negative energy or strengthen a client. And that is Tectite. So go to your local crystal store and say, I'd like a Tectite from Cambodia or Thailand. Nice Tectite. Okay, a nice Tectite. And keep that Tectite with you all the time. I have some on my website under Moldavite Trios. I have them under Tectites. But go to your local crystal store and support them. Get a Tectite and wear it or hold it. The lower you go down to your belly, the more powerful it is. Okay? Hold the Tectite when you're in a difficult situation. Hold the Tectite when somebody's being nasty, aggressive, and you'll find that you'll feel fine afterwards. Tectite has an amazing energy, and that is the only crystal that has never smashed or broken on me. So there is something about this meteorite, where it came from, that I believe that planet was an absorber and dispeller of negative energy. So that's my talk today. That's my truth. That's my experience. Please share your experience underneath here, because it's a phenomena that is very, very common as well. It's not like, that rare. So remember, always say to yourself, deprogram yourself, unlearn, and start to realize that crystals are amazing for our well-being, and they're there to help us, guide us, and to give us information, and also to never stop cleansing, clearing, strengthening our beautiful life force, which then heals the physical. I hope this